Good morning, Year 5, and welcome to Wednesday's Maths. So we're going to be carrying on with fractions today, but we're going to be looking at comparing fractions. Before we do that, pause your screen and have a go at these 6 questions. Number 5 is asking you to find an equivalent fraction to 3/4. So pause the screen, have a go on paper, and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, so number 1, we can use our column addition, and as long as we keep our decimal in the center of those numbers and in the same place in the answer, we can add here. 6 add 9 is 15. 1 add 1 is 2. So you should have ended up with 2.5. Using my times table knowledge, 6 times something is 72. I know that 6 times 12 is 72. 6 times 10 is 60. 6 times 2 is 12. 60 and 12 is 72. 100 more than 1,903. Well, if I'm looking in the hundreds column, I know I'm going to need to regroup, and that'll take me into the 2,000, I should say, but the ones stay the same. Okay, bus stop. So I'm going to do my layout with a 4 there, 387. 4 into 3 does not go, so I've regrouped the 3 over. 4 into 38. So I know that 4 times 9 is 36. So that's as close as I'm going to get. And I regroup my leftover 2. And then 4 into 27. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Is as close as I'm going to get with remainder 3. Okay, here we have got 3/4 as a fraction is equivalent. That means equal to how many 12ths? So we draw our arrows and use our multiples to know 4 has been times by 3 to get to 12. And therefore 3 times 3 is 9. We have to do the same to the top as the bottom. And finally, we need to write these numbers in ascending order. It means getting bigger. So this has got a 5 in the ones, and the others all have 4s in the ones column. So I'm ignoring the 5 because that is going to be my biggest number. I can actually just put it straight at the end, and then it's done. Now, when we're ordering, we then look at the next digit over. I've got 5/10, 6/10, 5/10, and 5/10. So again, it's going to be one of my 5/10. Look at the next column, 0 hundredths, 0 hundred. That's a 6, sorry, 7 hundredths or 6. So it's going to be my 0 hundredths that is my smallest. Okay, my next smallest is between 6 hundredths and 7 hundredths. So it will be, it will be the 6 hundredths, 6, then the 4.757, then the 4.6. So ordering in ascending order is nothing to do with the length of the number. It's about the digits in each place. Okay, I'm just going to swap over my sharing screen because I am moving over to My Maths. So it's really important that we are going on to My Maths, not only for the lessons, but also for the homework that I am going to be setting. So today we are comparing fractions. Comparing means looking at what is the biggest and what is the smallest. Oh, let me just resume my share. Hopefully you can see this okay. Okay, so we're going to be using the bar model to help us see our fractions. So we've got a bar that shows a whole number here, a whole, and we can split that into 4 equal parts. So if there was 1 out of 4, we would know that as a quarter. Our numerator, remember, tells us how many pieces have been shaded, and our denominator shows us how many equal pieces are in the whole. Okay, let me just 100% make sure that it's sharing. Here we are. So we've got our 1/4. A unit fraction, remember, is where we have 1 at the top. So this is a unit fraction. Okay, now this is 3/4. 3 out of the 4 are shaded in. And this is a non-unit fraction because it does not have a numerator of 1. So let's use that as a bit of a reminder. Pause the screen. Which of these pictures shows my unit fractions and which shows my non-unit fractions? Okay, well done. You should have had these both here and these both here as your non-unit fractions. Okay, let's get into some comparing then. So these bar models show fractions with the same denominator. They're all in fifths. Now, this would make it really easy to match the ones that have same denominators. So if I'm looking for fifths, this is quarters and quarters. Here is fifths and fifths. And we've got, what is this? Eighths and eighths, I think. Same denominators. So when we have all the same denominators, we can compare these really easily. So all of the bars are the same length, and we can quite clearly see which ones are the bigger ones. So the 7 out of 8 is bigger than 6 out of 8, which is bigger than 3 out of 8. You can see that visually because they are cut into the same amount of pieces, and visually you can see which one takes up the most space. Here's another example. We've got sevenths. So we've got Z has 4/7 of the football pitch mode. Pia has 1/7 and Amy has 5/7. All we need to do is look at our numerators because all of our denominators are the same. So label the bar model. We've got 3/7 here, and that was Anna. We had 4/7 here, and that was Fred. Oh, let's fit Fred in there. And then Kim had 2/7. And therefore, we have got them now in order. We've got the 4/7, the first one, that's the biggest, down to the smallest. So if we're using our symbols, which one is bigger? Remember, it goes towards the bigger number, the bigger side, and the bigger one here. So when denominators are the same, it becomes really, really easy to see who had the most. Oops, I clicked off Fred. Right, now let's go to the next challenge. We are going to use equivalent fractions now to help us, because when we are trying to compare fractions with different denominators, it's not as easy, but if we use equivalent fractions, that will help us. So remember, equivalent fractions take up the same amount of space, but are cut into different pieces. So for example, 1/2 being equal to 2/4. And remember, we use our multiples. So 1 can be times by 2, and therefore 2 times by 2 makes our equivalent fractions. You have to do the same both times. So let's check our equivalents here. 1/2 is equivalent to 4/8. Let's check. Yes, because if we times both of them by the multiple of 4, we get 4/8. Okay, let's find an equivalent fraction to 1/3. If I times them both by 2, I'd get 2/6. And as you can see visually, they are the same size. Okay, have a go at this one. Pause the screen. I want to know an equivalent fraction to 1/3. Try timesing by the multiple of 3. What would your equivalent fraction be? Hopefully you got 3/9. Okay, so let's complete this equation. 1/3 is equal to 3/9. They are equivalent. So I filled that in for you. Okay, I'm just going to skip forward into how we use that to compare. So we're trying to compare 1/2 and 3/8. Now these have different numerators and different denominators. So let's draw a half. So there's 1/2, and here is 3/8. Is there a way of cutting this shape into eighths? And I think you'll realize that actually, yes, we can. That same size shape could also be in eighths. They'll just be smaller pieces. So this bar shows halves and this shows eighths. So if we label 4/8 to make it equivalent, this will help us see where 3/8 would come into the equation. So if 1/2 and 8 were equivalent, we'd have 4/8. And as you can see, 3/8 is less than 1/2. So we can write that. Let's try that again. We're trying to compare 1/3 and 4/6. So let's write our 1/3. Underneath, we are going to draw a bar the same size, but this time split into 6. And as we know, we can now colour in 1/3 at the top and 4/6 underneath. and we can see which one is bigger. So for this one, we can quite clearly see that 4/6 is the larger fraction. Okay, I'm going to pause the screen this time for you to have a go. I'm trying to compare 2/3 and 5/12. So using my equivalent fractions, now that I can see them both as 12ths, actually, let me put my 12ths. This is what 2/3 would be as 12ths. Now you can quite clearly pause the screen and decide, is 5/12 bigger or smaller? Okay, hopefully you got that. 5/12 is smaller than 2/3. So I found my equivalent fraction, then I compared it. Oops, I put them around the wrong way though. There we go. Okay, a couple more. So 1/3, I'm shading in. Then I'm trying to compare it to ninths. So the best thing to do is find ninths. So let's think what we need to get to ninths. 3 times 3 is ninths. We draw our ninths and let's find the equivalent fraction first. So it would be, let's color it in, 3/9. And now we can, 3/9. And now we can find 2/9 and compare them. So we can see that 2/9 is now smaller than 1/3. Okay, hopefully that's enough practice for you. If you want to continue with this lesson to do a few more of these, you can actually try the lesson when you go to My Maths. Or if not, it's your opportunity now to have a go. My best advice to you is make the denominators the same using equivalent fractions first. Then you can compare. So turn thirds into 12ths first by using your arrows if you're finding equivalents, and then compare it to the final fraction. So your task is on My Maths today. So please, could you stop this video? You can redo this lesson if you need to, and then complete your activity in your My Maths assignment. Thanks, guys.